Welcome to this intentional movement practice for golfers. I'm going to begin with a posture check. We imagine that a hook is coming down from the heavens, reaching up with the crown of your head, hooking on, unlocking at the ankles, the knees, the hips, letting the pelvic bowl hang down on the spine, elongating that spine, broadening the shoulders, softening those shoulders, easy elbows, restful wrists, harmless hands, forgiving fingertips. Feet are balanced, neutral, weight is not asymmetric. Easy, ergonomic posture, puppet on a string. We start from this place, and our intention for this exercise is to remove resistance, tension, tightness, wherever you might find it. Our attention, I'll draw you through the body from ground all the way up through the top of your head, step by step, wanting you to unfold that intention wherever we end up, using your attention to dig in, laser-like focus into that body part, unfolding the intention as it makes sense. The answers aren't cognitive. You're not writing down the answer to how you remove resistance, tension, tightness. Just feeling it in your body and letting it unfold. Your awareness stays on this broad puppet on a string so that you have some point of comparison between that body part and the whole. So that's our intention, attention, and awareness. The way we change our brains is to bring those three components to everything we do. We start here with this simple movement practice. So we'll start with 3 stacked breaths just to flush out any stress or additional holding that might be there that we can easily flush. 3 stacked breaths, deep breath in, blow it out, deep breath in, blow it out, deep breath in, blow it out. And we're going to start rotating in place, rotating with the intention of removing resistance, tension, tightness. I'll bring the metaphor of the spring water pump being drawn up through your body as you rotate to allow you to draw that attention through. Rejuvenating, replenishing, resetting ourselves, softening, easing into this. We first start feeling the feet, softening up those feet, rooting into the ground, letting the bones and the ligaments of the feet settle in, the muscles below plantar fascia, these structures in the feet soften up, ease up as we unfold that intention in the feet, rooting into the ground, feeling the ground forces of transmitted through the feet. Softening this up, rooting down, the water starts to rise and percolate through the feet into the ankle joints. At the ankle joint level, we want to glide rather than grind. And at this point, I'll mention that we have 3 ways of rotating. We can rotate very neutrally with the spine axis maintained with very little weight transfer from right to left. That's kind of the neutral rotation. Then we can start to rotate with weight shifts, about 70-30, 80-20, between right and left. And if we weight shift, we can rotate towards the posted leg like I'm doing now, or we can rotate away from the posted leg like I'm doing now. There's no platonic ideal here. These 3 forms of rotation, you can play with all of them. Especially if you get bored or distracted, just come back to the rotation with a new intention, a renewed intention to remove resistance, tension, tightness, and play with the movement so that you bring the feeling of the joint back into your primary focus of attention. So at the ankle joint, the synovial fluid replaced, replenished, repleted, the weight transfer between the two ankles, noticing how the interplay of movement here works, softening up, unlocking, and noticing the edge of the dynamic range as you touch into the edge. Is it a bouncing? Is it a banging? Or is it just a feather-like touch? Can you soften this up at the edge of the dynamic range to allow a degree of freedom to open? If no more movement is allowed, just knowing that not forcing it past that stage, gentle, treats your ankles gently, treats your joints more gently, and may allow them to unlock a degree of freedom on the next repetition. So softening this up and rotating, gliding at the ankles, unfolding this intention as the joint capsules are made more supple and strong at the same time. Connecting the ground forces up, the water rises into the muscle bellies of the calf and the shin below the knees. Noticing the space, coming into a feeling of the muscle groups that flex and extend the feet, that flex and extend the toes, that stabilize the ankle. All of these muscle bellies are located right here below the knee, that anterior 2/3 compartment just below the knee. Feeling these muscle groups soften. You're starting to trust your puppet on a string neutral posture. If they seem a little bit too overloaded, find ergonomic ease again in that whole body posture as we rotate. Again, the 3 forms of rotation available to you. The agonist-antagonist pairs are starting to trust that neutral posture. And they're unlocking, softening, so that they work together in rhythm rather than against each other, trying to hold things steady and fixed. So we flow and the rhythm emerges of the back and forth, softening these muscle bellies, flushing lactic acid, allowing the perfusion to the muscle bellies to improve as we rotate. The interstitial fluids in the lower extremities starts to mobilize, coming back up through the lymphatic flow. This is no longer a metaphoric spring water movement. It is real fluid movement through the body as a result of this gentle, firm, but rhythmic pumping action. And the water rises now into the knee joints, the meniscus between the bones, floating and thickened as we glide rather than grind. The connective tissue around the joint capsule of each knee made more supple and strong. Just as at the ankle, we dropped into a tension in and around the capsule. Same thing here at the knee, moving back and forth, playing with the rotational stereotype, archetype, and noticing how this unfolds, especially at the edges of the dynamic range of the movement in the joint. Noticing what it wants, what you're trying to do as extra, and coming into a balance of what the joint is capable of and how you treat it gently. That edge of the dynamic range, touching in, returning, touching in and returning. Every repetition is your chance to unfold that intention, to remove resistance, tension, tightness. So at the knees, our attention is at that level, and up the water comes, rising into the biggest muscle groups of our body, the hamstrings, quadriceps. These flex and extend the knees, noticing these muscle bellies lengthening, loosening, softening, playing with the different forms of the rotation to get differential sensations in these muscle groups. Our attention allows that sensation to come alive, to answer the question with our body of what it means to remove resistance, tension, tightness in this body part. Troponin myosin chains are lengthened in these myocytes. Lactic acid flushed. We breathe to match that lactic acid load that's being dumped into our system, held there in these muscle groups in tightness. They now release, and that flow triggers a compensatory respiratory alkalosis. The breathing wants to deepen, to blow off that carbon dioxide from the lactate molecules that are being released. The body's natural buffering system, the lungs, the kidneys start to take effect to counter this acid load. But an ease is starting to be felt as that lactic acid flushes, the pH normalizes in these myocytes in the cellular system, and the function improves, stronger, more efficient, more ergonomic, and easier all at the same time. The water trickles up now into the pelvic girdle, all of the muscles of the pelvic floor, the pelvic girdle. These originate up here, the muscles of the leg. In and around that pelvic girdle, we notice the rotational forces being transmitted here into that pelvic bowl, softening the rotation, especially at the hips, supple at the right hip, supple at the left hip. Noticing the transmitted forces. How do we glide into the hip rather than grind? Opening up some space here. Noticing where we might impinge, contract in and around this space. And instead we're opening a gentle space opening to allow that pelvic bowl to rotate freely between the hips. Maybe the hips feel wider at 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock. More stable, supple, connecting the ground forces up and through that pelvic bowl as it rotates in place. Breathing, matching the movement, the water rises into the abdominal cavity, out to the abdominal wall, and we start to notice transmitted forces in the lumbar spine. At this point of the rotation, you may pick up a club and start to swing it, if that's possible for you. If you don't want to do that, that's okay. You can just simply rotate as I had you rotating before. The lumbar spine is the focus of our attention, even if we're grabbing a club. Very light grip, gentle, not really the golf swing as we know it, but instead just a soft, easy swing. And in fact, I'd like you to swing in the opposite direction as well as the direction you're used to swinging. Every 2 or 3 swings, just allowing the switch to occur. And you can play with the rotational movement, again, posting and turning away from that posted leg or turning towards that posted leg. These are strange swings at this point, but we're loosening up, unlocking the lumbar spine as it connects the pelvic bowl transmitted forces up and through the body. So we have 5 lumbar discs, and the golfer needs all of them to generate the X factor, to generate the differential between the shoulders and that pelvic bowl as part of their power power circuit. So the lumbar spine gets our special attention right at the sacrum, where that pelvic bowl connects to the base of the spine. Softening this up, opening up the nerve root outlets, and then noticing the articulation at L5 and at L4, L3, L2, and L1. With every swing, seeing if there's a degree of freedom, something that would soften. There may be some pain, there may be some tightness that you didn't notice before. That might be uncomfortable, especially if you already feel like you've got the freest swing in the world. Everybody holds some tension. There's always some tone within the body. And just gentling into the spine at the lumbar level to allow the torso to more freely rotate relative to that pelvic bowl. Softening now, we start to deepen our breathing. The diaphragm becomes the object of our attention, softening the breathing into the swing. If you haven't picked up a club, you're still swinging freely in this way. The arms just gliding. Either way is okay. If you don't want to pick up a club, that's okay. If you do and you want to experience the connectedness with the physics of the weight of the club, that's perfectly fine too. The golfer will benefit from both. You may drop the club after a while or pick it back up, just so that you're not overdoing one repetitious action with the club in hand. But the diaphragm now is the focus of our attention, so we really dig into this space, softening the abdominal wall, unlocking that tourniquet of tightness that we might hold stress in, tightness, tension, unlocking this so that the abdominal organs get their squeeze and release, the lumbar spine releases, and the breathing drops. Like the newborn baby, that nice, easy respiratory pattern, unencumbered, full body breathing. So as we swing, we coordinate and sync up that breathing, softening the diaphragm, dropping in, and we notice the 360-degree insertion points along the rib cage of the breathing apparatus, softening it at the solar plexus, softening it through 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock to the right side. And as we swing, if we're swinging the club, really feeling that the release here in the rib cage starts to be felt at the base of the rib cage. 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock to that thoracolumbar junction. So we were at L1, just building that connection to the thoracic spine, where more mobility meets a bit of immobility. The thoracic spine does have some degrees of freedom, and the golfer accesses this at the top of the golf swing to generate just that little bit more of rotation. But I encourage you to notice now the edges of your dynamic range, that we're not forcing ourselves through to a twisted, wringing out the towel of the spine, but rather loading up the coil in a healthy, open, unlocked manner, if that makes sense. If those words don't make sense, just unfold the intention to remove resistance, tension, tightness through the 12 thoracic vertebrae now, especially at the top of the backswing. This is where you might feel the thoracic spine a little more. There may be a little bit more load in the lower extremities in order to sense the thoracic spine. But feeling this space as you swing, as you rotate. Breathing, matching the movement. Exhaling through that downswing. Breathing into this spinal space, opening up that tissue. You might even use the club to start to feel it again. Those upper back muscles behind the thorax, mobilized here. The lung units are opening up, gas exchange is improving. The ventilation perfusion apparatus, those interlock pumps of circulation and ventilation that live in the chest, starting to optimize oxygen in, carbon dioxide out, to connect into the movement that you need to unfold. A little more efficiently, a little more ergonomically. Swinging, opening, gliding. We're neck deep in this spring water pump. Now we turn our attention to our upper limbs, softening up, feeling the weight of the arm, the whole arm at the shoulder, broadening the shoulders, supple, soft, easy. If you've got a club in hand, this is a great time to really bring the arms much more passively through the swing as the lower body, the torso, starts to connect. The ground forces, the broad shoulders open up and come along for the ride. Not adding, feeling the weight of the club and the forearm on the elbows. Easy elbows, almost invisible through the movement. Not much of a load and unload here, but there's some. So noticing what's held on to, especially that tennis elbow area, brachioradialis, these muscles in the forearms may actually be worked harder in the golfer who's trying to control that golf swing, control the club face. Pronation, supination of the wrist and hand, flexion, extension of the wrist and hand. While flexion and extension shouldn't be much part of the golf swing, stabilizing that requires the muscles here in the anterior 2/3 compartment of the forearm. So softening, feeling the weight of the forearm, the hand, the club as it relates to the elbow. Softening up this space. Then, without the club, rotating, wiggling the hands, squeezing, releasing the hands, wiggling the fingers, shaking out the hands, feeling the weight of the hands at the wrist as we unlock and soften the hands, feeling the weight of the fingers on the hand as we release tension here. The upper limbs are treated, softening, supple, easy. The edge of the dynamic range of their motion is really passive if you don't have the club. And if you have the club, noticing what the hands have to do through the swing just to hold on to the club. The transmitted forces as the downswing starts in the hand. Can we soften this? Can we ease our connection to the club so that that lag generates just a little bit more from the top down? We've been working from the bottom up. Now noticing the whole body swinging, that cervical spine is activated through a steady head, but a rotating shoulders. That means the neck structures are working, elongating the space, opening up some space in your spine, in the neck portion. These vertebrae open up space, the nerve root outlets of the brachial plexus made more efficient in their transfer of information, sensory information in from the arms, motor movements out to the upper extremities here in the neck opened. In the thorax, same thing. Thoracic spine has already been opened. So the command units to the rib cage allowed to function more freely. Lumbar spine, those nerve root outlets that control the big muscle groups of the lumbar spine, and sacrum and the pelvis and the lower extremities start to open. Our spine feels light, open, easy, strong, effortless in its rotational ability, powerful in its ability to transmit those ground forces all the way up through the shoulders. Feeling this broad, easy, powerful swing, start to notice that our body can move even more efficiently, even if we're at the top of our golf games, even if we're at the top of the world rankings. No matter, this swing, we can own it a little bit more fully by coming into the body, coming into the feel. And we let our arms dangle to a halt. We let the body feel what we just did in stillness, opening up and scanning through the rest of the head, letting the water, the spring water pump coming up through the head, contaminated at first, letting go of the tension, stress, tightness, wherever the body feels it, especially in stillness. Finding puppet on a string, finding that ease of posture, broadening the shoulders, softening the shoulders, easy elbows, restful wrists, harmless hands, forgiving fingers. Come into this neutral posture, breathing, noticing light touch, deep touch, pain, temperature, vibration, position sense, this whole fire hose of sensory information being drunk in by our brains, opening up to it, opening our attention to the broad awareness of the entire body, matching attention and awareness as broadly as possible. If there are distracting thoughts, extra thoughts, we can just let those subside. Not necessary here. We're just focused in on what the body feels. This feel exercise, opening, softening, flowing, and ease through our body, noticing what happened before and after. And if we need to anchor because those thoughts are a little too heavy, they are starting to distract about the round that's coming up, or the past round, or this expectation that this work is somehow going to magically turn your swing into the perfect swing. Certainly that's the intention as well, sub-intention. But we don't need that thought here. We're just digging into the body itself. Softening, feeling, unlocking, and just starting to breathe with the sensation of breathing becoming dominant in our awareness. Breathing with the whole body, opening up those lung units that were collapsed at first. Now that's the unfurling of the sails of the tennis court of the lungs starts to unfold. Where the opening goes, the blood follows air. Blood follows air, VQ matching to exchange gas, oxygen in, carbon dioxide out. All that is to say, the lungs happy, heart happy, body happy and healthy as the circulation improves to the entire circulatory apparatus, out to all of the capillary beds, to all the tissues of our body, all getting nourished by this circulation, driven by breathing, driven by rhythmic movement. Breathing, connecting, unlocking in stillness. Our next movements start to activate the lower back. We're physically stimulating this lower back in the Western vernacular. It's just a lower back massage. The kidneys getting erythropoietin released from them for better red blood cell volume and mass. In the Eastern tradition, the Chinese word is prenatal qi being released from the kidney, energy mobilized, ready to act. Again, different movement pattern here. From the pelvic bowl, the intention comes. to march, and we start to march in place. We're walking down that last fairway with a 5-stroke lead. Easy, unencumbered, happy, joyous. Breathing, connecting the kinetic energy, scanning the joints again for air resistance, this time much more rapidly. In the ankles, soft, supple ankles, supple knees, connected hips, broad open to connect the pelvic bowl, lumbar spine, connecting upwards, torso moving relative to the pelvic bowl, shoulders broad, elbows easy, restful wrists, harmless hands, forgiving fingers. We march like this, breathing into the movement, connecting rhythm of the breathing and the movement. Amplitude might get larger, not because we're trying harder, but because that rhythm gets expressed fully, coherent resonance frequency of our bodies expressed as the resistance drops. Breathing, unfolding, easing. We let our arms dangle to a halt. And in this movement and stillness, we reacclimate to puppet on a string. Start to notice our breathing again, quiet breathing of the whole body, chest wall opened, how the blood courses through. We connect breathing with movement now again for these 18 pictures to really connect in that dynamicism of efficiency of breathing to economy of motion. Breathing in, the arms come up and open. Exhaling, they come down. And we continue this circle of life. Inhale, open, broad, easy. Exhale, down and in. If our attention wanders, let it draw into that part of the body that needs the most attention to remove resistance, tension, tightness. Removing as easily as possible to return feel to the body. No doubt helping you gauge the next shot that you take as you feel your body better. Breathing in, opening up, unlocking, and ease. And we move right into the 18 pictures. The inhale, the arms come up. Exhale, down. Like Mr. Miyagi painting the fence with both hands together. Build it from the ground up, soft, supple ankles, supple knees, supple hips, pelvic bowl connecting this movement, the sitting movement, slight sitting movement, to the torso to draw those forces up through the shoulder, easy elbows, restful wrists, harmless hands, forgiving fingers. Really weightless, soft, supple. Next one, opening our heart to what is, the inhale up and open, the exhale closed and down. We continue opening our heart to what is. Our attention may draw into the chest space, to the heart, to the back, and these structures right here at the level of the opening arms. Floating them open, noticing the agonist-antagonist pairs might be fighting a little bit, seeing if this can be the space that we work on our intention to unfold, removing resistance, tension, tightness. Opening our heart to what is. What is our heart's desire with our golf game? We can open our heart to the full extent of that heart's wish. Next one, swing the rainbow. Arms come up overhead, lateral flexion and extension of the spine. We breathe and open into the space. Soft, supple ankle, soft, supple knees, hips bumping to 3 and 9 o'clock. Pelvic bowl might spill its contents just a little bit at 3 and 9 o'clock. Really bumping out and allowing the curvature of the spine to elongate and expand rather than thinking about it as a constriction of the one side. Think about it as an opening, breathing into the open side to really create some space. This is another place where the intercostal muscles between the ribs get their stretch and unfolding. Shoulders supple, holding up the arms may get tiring even for the strongest of us. So supple shoulders, soft, easy elbows, restful wrists, harmless hands, forgiving fingertips, swinging the rainbow between the palms of our hands. Breathing, matching the movement, unfolding and ease, gentleness, unencumbered as best we can. Even unencumbered, we feel the stress of the arm weight release as we come back to neutral. Next one, clearing the mist. It's a deep knee bend, arms together, scooping the mist, clearing the mist, scooping up that fog, clearing the mist, like we're giants in the Bay Area fog, kneeling, sitting rather than bending over. Tension might build in the squat naturally. Anything that's extra, see if we can melt it away with each rep. Every repetition is our chance to return to our simple intention. Bring our attention where it's necessary and keep that awareness in the body, not distracted to anything else that's not necessary here. Intention, attention, awareness. Being trained, that's how we train our brains. Neuroplasticity unfolds, learning unfolds through deliberate intention. Subconscious computer rest and sleep will solidify this learning. So if you take a nap afterwards or unwind a little bit, that period helps integrate all of the information, all of the new movement patterns. Next one, floating silk in the air. Arms float forward. We freestyle stroke in the standing position, swimming this movement open, building it from the ground up, connected at the ground through the feet. The ankles rotate, glide. The knees glide. The hips are gliding and open. Pelvic bowl easy through its range of motion. Edge of the dynamic range touched into, not banged into. Torso open, connected through that lumbar spine. Connecting up and through the shoulders. Opening some space in the shoulders to operate. Easy elbows, restful wrists, harmless hands, forgiving fingers. Easy unfolding, breathing, matching the movement. Back to neutral. Next one is rowing the big boat. Really come into puppet on a string, unlocking the ankles, the knees, the hips, pelvic bowl, hanging down on a long, broad spine, broad shoulders, easy elbows, restful wrists, harmless hands, forgiving fingers. For row the big boat is next. It's a deep knee bend with big arm circles. Rowing the boat. Big arm circles, supple, soft, easy though. Nothing forced. The edge of the dynamic range, noticed, gliding through, not grinding. Even in the sit, even in the squat, we're noticing that there's some space and some connection of the energy from the ground that is loaded and unloaded. There is these ground forces loading and unloading in the golf swing as well. So when we over-exaggerate the sit, like this movement, we can notice how we transmit those forces back up and through the body. How they start from the heels or balance through the feet, transmitted through the knees, through the hips, through the torso, out the shoulders, through the elbows, easing the wrists, the hands and the fingers. We come back to neutral. Arms may be talking to you now. Breathing, broadening the shoulders, opening some space, letting these muscles unlock. Next movement, sunrise, sunset. Right hand tossing a ball to the left, left hand tossing a ball to the right. Turning, rotating, breathing, connecting movement. You can slow this movement down so that each body part has to generate its own momentum and impulse to move. We're connecting the kinetic chain, but not using momentum to move. There's another way to move, and that is to use the momentum to see how we can optimize the flick of the wrist. And of course, as the golfer swinging, we're optimizing that kinetic energy at the moment of impact of the club head. But here we slow it down so that the rotation becomes pantomimed. We can allow our attention to float to where it's needed in the body to unlock a degree of freedom. Sunrise, sunset. Breathing, unlocking, and ease. We come back to neutral, breathing into the movement, gazing at the moon now. We have a beach ball sized replica of the moon between our hands. And the pantomime golf swing unfolds again, a little more upright this time. Not the same as an address position swing, but the same intention gets unfolded. Remove resistance, tension, tightness. In slow motion here, we build the swing to the top, unlocking, unfolding a degree of freedom. There is no platonic ideal. There's no perfect posture. Certainly mine, after some neck injuries and surgeries, does not represent what your body should look like at the top. Your own movements, your own body tells you what is allowed and what is being forced. So rather than forcing it, just allow it to unfold for this practice. When you need to swing, you may return to your movement pattern, but there's an ease and economy of motion here that you might be unlocking, that you can integrate in the best way possible for your swing. This is a chance to tune into your own bodies, to notice where those stress, tension, tightness points are as they come up. Is it in the hips and the glute? Is it in the knees? Is it in the ankles? Is it in that lumbar spine, thoracic spine, or the neck, cervical spine? Is it in the shoulders, the elbows, the wrists, the hands, or those fingers? Maybe it's in multiple places. Maybe the attention just glides around, scanning, unfolding, erasing the extra. Coming back to neutral, we check in with neutral, that long spine, broad shoulders, puppet on a string, return. for lotus leaves, gathering lotus leaves. So we shoot out to 10 o'clock and to 2 o'clock as we pivot and rotate. Breathing, matching the movement. Gliding rather than grinding. Gliding at the ankles, gliding at the knees, gliding at the hips, lumbar spine, connecting that pelvic bowl rotation upwards through the thoracic spine, out the shoulders, easy elbows, restful wrists, harmless hands, forgiving fingers. Next one, wave hands like clouds. So the right arm comes up and floats across the horizon like a cloud, solitary cloud in the sky. Exchanging with the left comes up and floats across. No platonic ideal, your own movements guide, your own resistance guides what you can do. Breathing, opening, unlocking. I'll draw your attention to the emptying hand here. Really empty the arm. Feel the weight of the arm at the shoulder of the emptying hand. Feel the weight of the forearm at the elbow to empty. Feel the weight of the hand at the wrist and empty that. Feel the weight of the fingers on the hand and empty each one. Emptying, fully emptying, allows the minimum set of myocytes to activate to raise that hand, raise the arm. So then soft, supple ease in the upper extremities unfolds in a way that might not have otherwise. Carrying stress, we really unburden ourselves with the emptying. Rhythm easy, breathing easy, solid base, fluid upper extremities. Back to neutral. Next three postures are going to be in a lunge position in each direction. We might step back and create some space. Shift our weight in that neutral posture. Shift the weight to the right, emptying the left. Lift the left and step out for picking up the ocean, looking at the sky. So we're knee deep in the spring water, picking up the ocean, handfuls of the ocean water, looking up and letting it rain down. This is a new movement pattern after about a half an hour, 40 minutes of rotation in a parallel stance. So noticing the lunge, noticing the transmitted forces through the ground, through the ankle, soft, supple, easy, but different movement pattern. Same thing in the knees, back and forth, 70-30. Hips open, gliding, pelvic bowl, sliding across the table, not spilling its contents forward, sitting down into the lunge. The torso may bend ever so slightly to pick up the ocean water. It's soft, supple, easy. Breathing, matching the movement. Inhale to the top, exhale through that bottom position. We step back, shift the weight to the left, step out to the right, picking up the ocean, looking at the sky to the right, balancing the movement, gliding rather than grinding. Breathing into this. Maybe the releases come through a big sigh breath whenever it's necessary for you. Really releasing the extras. This dynamic range of movement in all of our muscles unfolds in this pattern. Stepping back, stepping out to the left again, this time for push waves. We are neck deep in the ocean water now, gliding with the waves, floating, rooted like kelp in the kelp forest, but strong there, fluid above, flowing, floating, unfolding this movement in a way that's efficient, kinetic energy efficiently transmitted. We're so efficient at transmitting the rotational force through the golf ball, but we inculcate this in every movement pattern to really broaden our reach, broaden our ability, mobilize what was stuck, breathing matching the movement, the exhaled push, the inhaled return. You step back, step out to the right. Breathing, unlocking, unfolding, flushing, floating, power. Noticing the connected kinetic energy chain up the back of the heel, the back of the leg, through the glutes, up the upper back, out the shoulders, through the elbows, through the wrists. The heels of the palm contain and connect this force through whatever you're pushing. Soft, supple, easy, we flow out and flush. Stepping back, stepping out to the left again. Dove spreads its wings. Breathing open, exhaling closed. This is horizontal arm circles with that same lunge movement below. So gliding into it, getting comfortable here. Dove spreads its wings, opening the chest. Your attention floats to wherever it's required. It's hard for me to point it out specifically, although I continually have you scanning through your bodies from the ground up. It may be that you need to focus a little more in that pelvic bowl opening or in the thoracic spine, supporting the weight of the shoulders, or in the wrists, wherever it might be for you. Glide that attention to where it's skillful to unfold the intention. Stepping back, stepping out to the right. Dove spreads its wings, breathing, connecting, gliding, easing. Again, no platonic ideal. You see my movement pattern. It's not a difficult movement, but still your body may unfold it a little bit differently. That's okay. Swing your swing. Back to neutral. We come back to neutral, check in to the posture, elongated spine, unlocked ankles, easy knees, hips, harmless, long spine, broad shoulders, easy elbows, resting wrists, harmless, hands, forgiving fingers, fists at the hips for dragon emerging from the sea. Dragon emerges, that knuckle comes out like a little punch forward. We can punch from the upper extremities or we can punch from the ground. Noticing how we transmit forces all the way through the feet, through the ankles, through the knees, through the hips, through the lumbar spine, through that thoracic spine, through the shoulders, out the elbows, through the wrists, through that middle knuckle, all the way and up and through. That kinetic chain connects, transmits efficiently. When the resistance gets out of the way at any joint level, the efficiency of power transfer improves. There needs to be some stabilization, but in the direction of motion, the resistance melts. Powerful. You can knock over a prize fighter with just this blow. Breathing, matching the movement. Boom. Boom. Ha. You might exhale through that punch. Ha. 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 Back to neutral. Wingtips touch at the top for fly like an eagle. Wingtips touch at the bottom through that deep knee bend, sitting down rather than bending over. Breathing, matching the movement. Inhale to the top, exhale through the closed position. Again, in the squat here, we notice the transmitted forces from the ground being moved efficiently through. Every repetition is our chance to connect the kinetic chain a little more efficiently, melt resistance, glide rather than grind. The grind is a glide. People talk about the grind through the round of golf that isn't coming easy. We can glide through a grinding round, at least with our bodies. And at the bottom here, we start turning the great wheel to the left, arms together, big arm circles around. New movement pattern of the load and unload, transmitted between the right and left feet, and back again, from right to left on the bottom, left to right up at the top. Sitting in rather than bending over too much, though this pelvic bowl will spill its contents here a little bit forward. Breathing into this whole body movement, entire connected kinetic chain at work in this weird movement pattern. Not something you do every day until you start to do it every day in this 18 picture practice. The benefits, the merits return themselves as we switch directions. Breathing, unfolding. The merits reveal themselves through repeated return to this work. 1 hour of this kind of movement practice a couple of times a week will power your exercise routine as you start inculcating the same thought process of removing resistance, tension, tightness as you go for power and strength training or fast twitch movements, conditioning, muscle conditioning. Anything you exercise with, you can bring this same intention to. Breathing, matching your movements, wherever they may be, whether it's on the range, practicing the swing, out there on the course, walking between shots. Breathing, matching the movement, connects you better to your body, connects you better to an energy transfer. Back to neutral for the penultimate picture, second but last, we march again, this time slow motion. Really transmitting, emptying the empty leg, floating that opposite hand and foot to bouncing the big ball or stepping out. Unimpinging, opening up, connecting long torso, long spine, broad shoulders, easy elbows, restful wrists, harmless hands, forgiving fingers. And we come back to neutral for the very last picture, arms wide, deep knee bend, gathering the fragrance of the earth, settling it down. Deep knee bend with the broad arms sweeping, gathering the fragrance of the earth, settling the energy of the body back into the dantian, that energy center in the pelvic bowl. Last one, deep knee bend, gathering the fragrance, settling. For a moment in stillness, left hand over the belly, right hand over left, breathing into this space, connecting into neutral, and now noticing what your body feels like, comparing from an hour ago to now. Letting that sink in, the intention, attention, and awareness that you dutifully unfolded here. You can let that dissipate into whatever the next activity is But before you do, just returning into a simple connection, breath, body, and the full body, allowing the mind to settle and ease into connecting, learning, incorporating this as best you can into the movements, the practices that make you a better golfer. You can end with a simple affirmation that applies to anyone, not just a golfer. May I be happy, may I be healthy, may I be free of suffering. May your golf games be happy, may they be healthy, may they be free of suffering, full of new firsts. Breathing like this, we offer it to ourselves. We offer it, that same affirmation, to the people around us that support us. We can't have our practice, our game, without the support of many people. So may they be happy, may they be healthy, may they be free of suffering, as it supports you, but it supports them. And we radiate this across to the community at large, to the planet. May all beings be happy, may all beings be healthy, may all beings be free of suffering, may all beings know the wonders and joys of golf. Thank you for joining me. Left hand, moon rising, open fist. Right hand, sun forming, sun rising. Closed fist, sun meets moon. Thank you for your practice. Continue to see this video, repeat, come join me live, and we will work together to unlock this potential in your game.